If the last few years felt like one long, anxious loop, if you spent all that time just internalizing this feeling that the world is spiraling into, total chaos,
yeah,
then you need to listen closely. Because that feeling, that collective sense of uncertainty and fear and just endless repetition, that probably wasn't an accident. According to the sources we're digging into today, that was the weapon.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really cutting through the noise. We're trying to connect the dots across this honestly pretty dizzying stack of sources. We're talking secret patents, suppressed tech, ancient giants, quantum mechanics, the whole shebang.
And the premise is, it's explosive.
Yeah.
The idea is that the greatest weapon of manipulation out there is simply fear. And the ultimate truth. Reality isn't just something we observe passively. It's something that is actively created.
Yeah, our mission today is to try and uncover this sort of hidden blueprint. The idea that suggests our global story, our narrative, is being written, maybe manipulated, definitely monetized, by people who understand this one big secret, that the human mind fundamentally dictates physical outcomes.
We're going to try and show you who might be pulling the strings based on this material. And maybe more importantly, how you might be able to seize back some of that power yourself.
So yeah, buckle up. We are jumping straight into this contagion of fear and how the powerful might be planting the seeds of prediction, sometimes years in advance.
Okay, let's start with something we all shared, right? The global pandemic experience. I mean, talk about a perfect, terrifying laboratory for mass control.
Exactly. And this is where the source material immediately draws a line. It separates the biological virus from let's call it the behavioral virus. It argues the real pandemic, the one that truly shaped things, wasn't biological. It was the psychological virus of fear itself.
That constant uncertainty, the repetition of messages, that feeling of shared, imminent global danger, that became the dominant reality for years, didn't it?
It absolutely did. And what keeps that kind of terror going? The source points straight at the media control loop. We hear a lot about fake news, sure, but this focuses more on the type of news being pushed.
Just look at what still dominates TV, right? Drama, crime, deaths, accidents, political fights. It's this constant, very stimulating diet of negativity.
And the argument is that's entirely by design. This kind of consumption, this urge to be informed about the latest disaster, apparently it's neurologically addictive. It grabs your attention, triggers curiosity, and keeps you in this constant sort of low-grade state of anxiety.
Right. And the elite, the great ones, as the source calls them, supposedly used a simple but devastatingly effective three-part strategy for mass control.
Yeah.
Fear, uncertainty, and repetition.
Think about it. If you repeat the same message, the same warning of imminent danger across every channel in every country, using the same dramatic language, the same urgent graphics, you condition billions of people to accept one shared thought. The world is in chaos.
That's powerful stuff.
Incredibly. And here's the kicker, the part that's often missed. While all this manipulation is supposedly happening, the individual, you, still remain ultimately responsible for what you choose to consume.
Right. Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
It is. But the argument is they feed us drama because collectively the human mind seems addicted to watching drama. It becomes this self-perpetuating cycle of control. And that makes it incredibly easy for these huge global conglomerates, like the ones reportedly owned by families like the Rothschilds and Agnellis, to just communicate their preferred narrative to the, let's say, ringleaders to the public, and then just watch billions comply.
Okay, so let's connect that external manipulation back to our internal power. Because if fear is the virus, then our mind is the machine, isn't it? Yeah. It either manifests the illness or the cure.
Precisely. And now we're talking about the scientific proof that belief shapes physical reality. The placebo effect and its flip side, the nocebo effect.
This isn't fringe stuff. This is established science. The mind's expectations can literally dictate physiological outcomes. Placebo.
Oh.
A sugar pill cures real symptoms because you believe it's medicine.
And nocebo. The belief that something will harm you actually causes real, verifiable harm. It's incredible.
There's this classic story, Mr. Right, back in 1957. You have to hear this. This man had terminal cancer, huge tumors, literally days from death. His doctor, kind of desperate, gave him a dose of this new experimental horse serum called crebiosin.
And the result was, astonishing. His tumors, described as being the size of oranges, just melted away. He recovered almost instantly. Why? Because he totally believed this cutting-edge serum was his miracle cure. He went home, lived a normal life for about 2 months.
But then the shoe dropped. He read these definitive news reports, scientific reports, calling cryptocurrency completely useless, ineffective, and what happened?
He immediately relapsed. The tumors came back fast. He was right back on his deathbed. Now, this is where his doctor gets really clever, almost like a psychologist.
Yeah, the doctor says, hey, don't worry, Mr. Wright, those first reports were wrong. The manufacturers, they've made a new, super potent, doubly concentrated version just for you.
And he injects Mr. Wright with this new super serum, which was actually just distilled water, nothing in it, absolutely nothing, and the outcome.
The tumors melted away again. He was completely cured, purely by his expectation, not by any substance. He recovered fully, survived, until he read the final definitive report confirming the original cryptocurrency serum was, in fact, utterly useless.
And he died almost instantly, within 2 days.
That story, which is documented, it just proves the sheer power of the human mind. It can be the source of an immediate cure or instant illness.
And the source material backs this up further. There was a study in 1960 on asthma patients. Researchers gave them an inhaler with just water vapor, but told them it contained a known allergen.
Get this, 48% experienced actual asthmatic symptoms, and a shocking 30% suffered full-blown asthma attacks, just from water vapor.
But then when they were told the inhaler now contained medicine, their airways opened right back up. Still water vapor. The belief was everything.
So think about that. If one individual is that suggestible, what happens when you apply this principle globally to billions of people?
The material posits exactly that. If billions of us collectively consume and deeply believe a shared narrative, say, about how extremely deadly and contagious some new threat is, then maybe we're not just victims of circumstance. Maybe we are, in a way, becoming the accomplices of our own prophecy.
Wow. Accomplices of our own prophecy.
That's quite a thought.
It really reframes things, doesn't it? So if we are actively manifesting our reality, maybe the powerful elite simply know how to tap into that mechanism, how to direct it.
Which leads us straight into this really shocking concept. Are major global events actually pre-written?
We can start with the world of high finance and geopolitics, specifically the Economist magazine. Now, this isn't some supermarket tabloid. It has ownership links to incredibly powerful families like the Rothschilds and Agnellis we mentioned.
Right. And the claim in the source material is that their annual covers, the ones predicting the year ahead, are basically forms of predictive cryptography. Like a literal visual puzzle hiding messages about what's coming. You see things like the predicted clash between democracy and autocracy, or detailed warnings about stagflation risk in Britain.
And they apparently predicted the shift from a global pandemic mindset to more of an endemic reality where the virus, continues to primarily affect the poor, unvaccinated parts of the world, while the privileged largely move on.
But it's the financial predictions that are often highlighted as being chillingly specific. Take the 2022 cover, for instance. It clearly showed the logos of major cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Litecoin.
It wasn't just decoration, was it?
Apparently not. The interpretation is that it signaled regulators would tighten the rules in 2022, intensifying this global battle for the future of finance. It's presented as almost an open secret handshake, telling those in the know exactly where the global money flows are being directed.
Okay, that's the serious geopolitical stuff. But then the source pivots to something almost absurd. The Simpsons.
Yeah, the cartoon. It sounds crazy, but this animated series has this uncanny, almost mystical track record of predicting future events, sometimes years, even decades in advance.
And we're not talking vague stuff. They predicted Donald Trump's presidency way back in a 2000 episode. They visualized things that look exactly like video calls and virtual reality back in 1995. The level of detail is what's staggering.
Think about the 2014 World Cup. 3 months before the tournament even started, the Simpsons apparently predicted Neymar's serious injury, Colombia getting through, and that shocking 7-1 defeat of Brazil by Germany? How on earth is that possible?
And the 9/11 hints. There's an image from years before showing a brochure or something with the number 9 right next to the Twin Towers. It's eerie.
So here's the crucial question the source urges us to consider. This is where it gets really, really interesting, potentially connecting back to that idea of shared prophecy.
Are the writers of The Simpsons just lucky? Do they have some secret intel? Are they time travelers? Or could it be evidence of something else?
Could it be that millions, even billions of people consuming the same highly influential broadcast are unconsciously accessing the same quantum information field and collectively manifesting that specific reality?
Wow, okay. So the quantum angle, the idea from physics that maybe the past, present, future, They all kind of exist simultaneously in this infinite sea of possibilities, this shared data field.
Exactly. And if that's the case, then perhaps these influential shows, these magazines, they aren't just predicting the future. They're acting like powerful broadcast antennas directing our collective focus.
So by focusing the minds of millions on a specific event, even a fictional cartoon one, we might actually be collapsing the quantum wave function, choosing that specific outcome for our shared reality.
It's a mind-bending idea, but if it holds any water, then the predictive power isn't really with the predictor. It's with the collective attention, the billions of eyes focusing on it.
Okay, that shifts things dramatically. From subtle quantum influence, let's move to what the source calls the alleged blueprint for a global catastrophe and control. This is where we talk about the 1994 Illuminati New World Order card game, INWO.
Right. This was a role-playing card game designed by Steve Jackson, and its stated objective right there in the game was pretty explicit. Consolidate a secret power structure, manipulate global society, deal apocalyptic blows. Sounds fun, right?
Okay, yeah, just a casual game night. But the reason it's considered potential evidence is the shocking specificity of some of these cards, created years, even decades, before the events they seem to depict actually happen.
It's like finding a weirdly detailed and frankly terrifying roadmap of the future. Take the epidemic card. It clearly shows someone in a mask, gloves, surrounded by disinfectants, and the word quarantine is right there. This was made in the mid-90s.
Years before COVID. For people looking at this material, it strongly suggests the coronavirus wasn't just some random natural event, but maybe a planned mechanism laid out in advance.
And then you look at the chilling foreshadowing of 9/11. The game had a terrorist nuke card and a Pentagon card, showing buildings exploding in ways eerily similar to the actual events, both created 6 years before 2001.
Which feeds directly into those persistent theories, officially denied, of course, but persistent nonetheless, that the Twin Towers weren't just brought down by plane impacts and fuel fires, but maybe by internal explosives.
And bolstering that suspicion, there's that infamous, widely circulated clip we see referenced in the sources. A BBC journalist reporting live on the collapse of 7 World Trade Center about 20 minutes before the building actually fell.
Someone was clearly reading from a script, weren't they?
Yeah.
Following a predetermined timeline.
This certainly looks that way. And why the collapses? Well, follow the money, as they say. The game also has a market manipulation card. It talks about the systematic destruction of economic institutions.
So the argument is those supposedly in control need some kind of catastrophic external trigger, like, say, a global pandemic, to engineer a massive economic downturn, spread fear, and then introduce their new rules, their new world order.
It's presented as the ultimate formula. Create a problem, a virus. Generate mass hysteria and fear, the weapon. And then present the patented solution, the monetization, the hero complex.
Which brings us directly to where this stops being just theory and hits public record. Patents. Okay, pause for a second. If your mind is reeling right now, if you're thinking this is insane, you are in the perfect state of awareness. We've just tried to connect the fear maybe you felt over the last few years directly to alleged predictive codes in magazines and even a card game blueprint from the 90s.
But honestly, trust us, we have only just scratched the surface here. We still need to show you the actual publicly listed patents for diseases, talk about potentially reverse-engineered extraterrestrial technology, and dive into the ancient evidence of giants that the Smithsonian allegedly tried to cover up. It gets wilder.
It really does.
Yeah.
So if you appreciate us going down these, let's face it, pretty terrifying rabbit holes and trying to translate this complex material for you in a way that makes sense, please show us some love. Go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hey, consider joining our amazing membership community.
Yeah, we absolutely rely on your engagement and support to keep digging into this stuff, finding these connections and bringing them to you. And trust me, you do not want to miss the genuinely cosmic scale revelations that are coming up next. Okay, let's get back into it.
So in the first part, we learn how humanity is globally controlled and manipulated through fear and hidden knowledge. We shift now to what the source quite accurately labels the real business: patents. If those New World Order cards were maybe the plan, the publicly listed patents, well, they look like the receipt. This is presented as the ultimate secret weapon for the elite owning both the problems and the solutions.
And the really shocking revelation here is that you can actually look these up. Patents are publicly listed for diseases and incredibly advanced technologies. These aren't hidden away. The codes are out there.
For example, the Ebola patent, code US 20120120251501502A1. It was filed in 2008. That's the full 6 years before the major 2014 Ebola outbreak that terrified the world and grabbed all the headlines.
And the coronavirus patent. Specifically, SARS-CoV, the family related to the recent pandemic. It's listed under code US 720-852B1, filed years ago.
Furthermore, the Zika virus, remember the global health emergency around 2016, especially concerning birth defects, that virus was allegedly patented way, way back in 1947, and the source even claims it was sold by the Rockefeller Foundation.
Now, this raises a really profound legal and ethical question right at the heart of the source material. Why would anyone, a corporation or some entity, patent a naturally occurring pathogen? What possible legal or economic advantage does patenting a virus give you?
Unless
it aligns perfectly with that INWO blueprint we talked about. If you own the patent for the disease, you potentially control the research, the diagnostic testing, the vaccine development, the distribution, and ultimately the massive monetization of the cure. You own the whole cycle.
Okay. From controlling disease, let's jump to controlling physics. Let's talk suppressed technology. And we have to start with probably the most famous or infamous whistleblower in the realm of government black projects, Bob Lazar.
Right. Lazar claimed back in 1989 that he was a physicist working at a top-secret facility called S4 near Area 51, and his job...
to reverse engineer the propulsion and power systems of captured extraterrestrial spacecraft. Sounds like sci-fi, right?
Yeah, absolutely does. But what makes his story compelling, at least according to the sources, isn't just the alien angle. It's a specific, verifiable scientific detail he provided years ahead of mainstream science. Element 115, which we now call moscovium.
Lazar was talking publicly, on camera, back in 1989, about a stabilized version of element 115 being the power source for these craft. He described how it worked, acting as this incredible energy source and creating anti-gravity effects.
So why is that critical? Because element 115, in any form, stable or unstable, was only first synthesized in a laboratory by Russian and American scientists in 2003. That's 14 years after Lazar was describing its specific properties and use in advanced propulsion systems.
He was apparently working on technology that the public scientific world hadn't even conceived of yet, let alone created.
He described the insides of these ships to metallic, seamless, no right angles, almost like they were grown rather than built, tiny chairs, designed for short beings, and he claimed he saw documents indicating the craft came from the Zeta Reticuli star system.
And the reaction to him going public, well, that kind of affirms the potential gravity of his claims, doesn't it? The government allegedly tried to erase his past. Suddenly there were no records of him at MIT or Caltech. His employment records at Los Alamos vanished. They tried to paint him as a fraud, a crackpot.
And the source suggests this suppression continues today, hidden in plain sight through the patent system. We have publicly listed patents for technologies that sound like they're straight out of Star Trek. Patent US 2000-60145019A1, for instance, describes a triangular spaceship.
There's another one, US 2006-771122N1, for a full-body teleportation system. These patents exist. They are registered in the public domain. It implies the technology is proven, at least conceptually, yet it's clearly not being deployed for public benefit.
But maybe the most disturbing one, given our earlier discussion about media control, is patent US 650-6148B2. The title is Nervous System Manipulation by Electromagnetic Fields from Monitors.
Okay, that sounds terrifying. What does it mean?
It's genuinely chilling. The patent description suggests that specific electromagnetic fields pulsed at certain frequencies from a nearby computer monitor or a TV screen can directly interact with and affect a person's nervous system.
So passive behavior control.
That's the implication. It suggests that the media loop we talked about earlier isn't just feeding us fearful information. It could potentially be delivering subtle behavioral commands or influences directly into our nervous systems, just through the simple act of watching a screen.
Wow. Okay. Deep breaths. Let's zoom out, way out. If this kind of suppressed technology exists, if there might be advanced beings interacting with governments, we need to grasp the sheer scale of the cosmos. Because our entire human drama, our control systems, our fears, they become almost laughably small in comparison.
That magnitude check is absolutely essential. Think about it. Earth compared to our sun. The sun is 1.3 million times larger, but then compare our sun to UY Scuti, one of the largest known stars. Our sun is like a single speck of dust. Our entire solar system basically vanishes on that scale.
Right. And that massive scale leads us to look at these strange images captured by solar observatories. Things that NASA sometimes dismisses as camera errors or comets. We're talking about potentially gigantic objects seen near the sun.
Objects, hundreds of times the size of Earth, exhibiting really precise, complex, almost ship-like shapes. There was a famous image from June 2019 that gets cited a lot.
So the material asks, could these be enormous, maybe autonomous ships drawing energy from the star, maybe manned by the same kinds of beings who provided the tech Lazar talked about?
And speaking of massive beings, let's bring that cosmic scale right back down to Earth, to our own ancient history, because we have to talk about the persistent global evidence suggesting giants once walked this planet.
Because, honestly, the scale of some ancient constructions makes absolutely no sense unless we accept the possibility of either incredibly advanced, lost technology or gigantic assistance.
And the biggest bombshell here, according to the sources, involves the Smithsonian Institution cover-up. Allegedly, back in 2015, the Smithsonian was forced by a court ruling to release classified documents, proving it had deliberately destroyed thousands of giant human skeletons back in the early 1900s.
Destroyed them? Why on earth would they do that?
The motive suggested by the source is simple: to protect the established narrative. Specifically, the neat story of Darwinian evolution and our accepted historical timeline. A history that includes potentially technologically advanced, enormous humanoids just throws that whole conventional story out the window.
That the physical evidence apparently still exists elsewhere. We have these giant human footprints, perfectly formed like ours, but ranging from 45 centimeters, that's huge, up to 1.3 meters long, found embedded in rock.
And there's that macabre discovery in Egypt, severed giant hands measuring between 25 and 31 centimeters long. Based on anatomical proportions, that suggests beings who stood somewhere between 2.7 and 2.9 meters tall, almost 10 feet.
And suddenly, this evidence provides a potential answer to these impossible ancient megastructures, doesn't it? How did ancient people, supposedly with only primitive tools, move the 60-ton blocks of the pyramids of Giza?
Or the absolutely mind-boggling 350-ton blocks perfectly fitted together at Sacsayhuaman in Peru? Or the truly colossal megaliths at Baalbek in Lebanon, some weighing up to 1,650 tons? That's like lifting multiple jumbo jets.
Without either that suppressed anti-gravity tech Lazar mentioned, or the sheer brute force of massive 10-foot-tall laborers, these structures just seem impossible based on conventional history.
The dots start to connect, at least within this framework. If the cosmic scale allows for giant ships and potentially giant beings, why wouldn't they have played a role in Earth's ancient past, leaving behind these impossible structures and maybe even genetic traces?
Okay, we've covered external control, predictive patterns, mind-blowing scale. Now let's pivot completely inward, towards the fundamental nature of reality itself. Because this, according to the source, is the key to seizing back control. It all comes down to energy and frequency.
Yeah, this is where we get into concepts like acoustic levitation, the scientifically demonstrated ability to move physical objects using only sound waves. It proves that the solid world we perceive isn't really solid at all. It's fluid, it's manipulable by vibration.
The entire universe, the source tells us, is fundamentally composed of energetic frequencies. And learning to tap into those frequencies, that's the real secret to creation.
The ultimate enigma here has to be Ed Leedskalnin, this eccentric Latvian immigrant who built the incredible coral castle down in Florida all by himself. He moved huge blocks of coral stone, some weighing up to 35 tons each. How?
He was famously secretive about his methods. He just claimed he didn't use conventional technology. He said he knew the secret of the pyramids, that he knew how to tune in to the music of the stars.
And here's the clincher. After he died, investigators reportedly found unusual radio equipment, magnetic devices, and even soundproof, hermetically sealed rooms on his property. His neighbors had apparently sworn they'd seen him levitating huge blocks of coral like they were hydrogen balloons. He was manipulating frequency somehow.
But maybe the most stunning historical account, if true, comes from a Dr. Jarl in the 1930s. He claimed he documented Tibetan monks building a stone wall high up on a cliff face, 250 meters high.
And how are they doing it? They were using these large horns like musical instruments and big iron drums acting as acoustic transducers, all arranged in a very precise geometric pattern around the stone blocks they wanted to move.
Jarl apparently witnessed them chanting in unison, increasing the tempo of the drums. And as the sound frequency intensified, these huge stone blocks began to sway, then lift off the ground, float upwards, and land precisely on the cliff ledge above, building the wall with sound.
The sonic energy was literally overcoming gravity. Jarl supposedly took photos and measurements, but when he returned to Europe, his sponsoring scientific society immediately confiscated all his evidence and classified it.
But if that account is even partly true, It's definitive proof, isn't it? If they can move massive stones with sound, if the external world is that fluid, that responsive to vibration, just imagine what our own inner vibrations, our thoughts, our focused intentions, our emotions can do to the reality we experience.
And this leads us to the ultimate truth, the reason why, according to this perspective, the controllers fear our inner power, because they know how potent it really is. But first, we need to recognize our own fundamental limitation.
Right. The source material quotes experts, like Dr. Karan Raj, who state that the human eye, our primary way of perceiving the world, is only capable of seeing about 0.0035% of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Just a sliver of reality.
Think about that. It means our normal, everyday, three-dimensional understanding of the world is, by definition, limitedly false. We are missing 99.99965% of the picture.
So if we're only seeing this tiny fraction, what about the rest? We have to consider the possibility of a higher reality.
This brings us right back to Plato, actually, his famous analogy of the cave, or the concept of the hypercube. Plato argued that the material world, all the stuff we touch, see, fight over, it's all just shadows of ideas or forms.
Like watching shadows on a cave wall.
Exactly. Or think of it like this. Our 3D reality is like the 2D shadow cast by a four-dimensional object. We see the flat projection, the shadow, but we don't grasp the true higher dimensional structure or volume of the object casting it.
So the shadows are 3D world. The chaos, the pandemics, the market crashes, they're just reflections, maybe distorted reflections, of events or phenomena taking place in a higher dimension. What Plato called the absolute one.
That's the idea. The separation we perceive between events, the chaos, the limitations we feel, maybe that's all just a mental creation operating within that tiny 0.00035% slice of reality we can see. The bigger picture, the source suggests, is that we possess an infinite mind existing within an infinite sea of possibilities.
And every time we choose a belief, every time we focus our attention, we are essentially choosing which quantum reality to step into, which shadow play to experience.
Which means those who understand these secrets of frequency, perception, and the malleability of reality, the alleged elite, they certainly wouldn't want the other 99.9965% of us to wake up and realize we possess this incredible power of creation ourselves.
And the potential cost of getting too close to revealing this truth, of breaking the paradigm?
Yeah.
Well, it's tragically visible, according to the sources, in the fates of certain individuals who challenge the status quo.
Yeah, we need to acknowledge the potential high stakes here, based on these accounts. Take Dr. Frank Suarez. He was a vocal critic of pharmaceutical industry profits, researching natural cancer cures. He died suspiciously, officially ruled a suicide by falling from his 9th floor apartment, but allegedly just before releasing a highly anticipated book detailing natural cancer treatments.
Then there's Stanley Meyer, the inventor who created a water-fueled engine. Imagine that, potentially ending oil dependence, revolutionizing global energy. He died suddenly of poisoning, reportedly right after a celebratory dinner, just one day before he was apparently scheduled to sign a major multi-million-dollar contract with the U.S. Department of Defense.
And his experimental equipment vanished afterwards.
And finally, Jacobo Grinberg, a brilliant Mexican neuroscientist who was actively exploring telepathy, psychic phenomena, the very nature of consciousness, and the infinite mind we just discussed. He vanished without a trace in 1994. Theories range from government interference to something even stranger.
Now, these stories aren't presented here to induce more fear. That would defeat the whole purpose. They're included to emphasize that the knowledge we've been exploring today is potentially highly valuable and maybe highly guarded.
They serve to illustrate a crucial point. While there might seem to be serious limits placed on our outer freedom, what we can do in the physical world, there is absolutely never a limit to your inner freedom.
Exactly. They might try to control the cause, the external event, the narrative, but you, and only you, always control your reaction, your focus, your internal state, your beliefs.
So the ultimate takeaway from this entire deep dive, from patented plagues and alien tech to acoustic levitation and quantum possibilities, is maybe the most fundamental truth you need to grasp. It requires unlearning, disbelieving the limits you thought were real.
The one truth, woven through all these disparate threads, is simply this. You create your own truth.
You're not just a human being having an occasional spiritual experience. The perspective here is that you are a spiritual being, an infinite consciousness inhabiting a temporary human experience.
And the goal, then, isn't necessarily to solve the external chaos or win some cosmic game against the controllers. Maybe the goal is simply to wake up to your own creative power, to realize you are the director of your own movie, regardless of the fear-based script someone else is trying to sell you.
And then, just play the game. Play it with joy, with awareness, with the understanding that you hold the ultimate power within you.
So we've journeyed today through the deliberate contagion of fear, looked at possible blueprints of prediction hidden in plain sight, grasped the mind-bending cosmic scale, touched on suppressed technology, and rediscovered the ancient proof of vibrational power.
And every single piece of external evidence, every conspiracy, every anomaly, ultimately points back to the same place. The incredible, often untapped internal power we all possess to choose and manifest a different reality.
This knowledge isn't necessarily here to solve all your problems overnight, but it is here, hopefully, to force a conscious choice. A choice about what you believe, where you place your focus.
Think about it. If this external world really is just a shadow, a projection from higher dimensions, what happens if you consciously stop staring at the shadow? Stop feeding the fear, the drama, the negativity with your precious attention.
What happens if instead you consciously, deliberately turn your focus entirely towards the light, towards your own inner power, towards the reality you do want to create?
That perhaps is the ultimate frontier of consciousness. And the decision to walk towards that light or stay mesmerized by the shadows, well, that choice is entirely yours.
Thank you for joining us on this absolutely extraordinary deep dive.
Until next time, keep creating your reality.